I don't like them at the price.
Hey.
Coaches. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, they can't hold a flame against you, ay. Blow the whistle, blow the whistle, ay. Blow the whistle, got the game, it ain't no issue, yeah. Blowing the whistle, I had enough with you, the championship, it is gone. Ain't listen to you, I can't give it to you, cause you don't know what I've been on. This is the Coaches Podcast.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back into the Fantasy Coaches. I am your host today, Coach Steve. I am in Chicago today, guys. Doing a little Soldier Fear action here. It's another fun episode for you guys. Obviously, today we are getting into our bust, breakout, and sleeper episodes of July here, starting with the quarterback position. So let's get into it. Let me introduce the crew as always. Coach Jibbs, welcome to the show, brother.
Welcome. Doing fabulous. Thank you for the week off, sir. As well rested.
I hope it was. I hope it was. Yes, we had off last week, so I gave you guys the week off. Coach John, what's going on, brother?
Nothing much. Super excited seeing everybody's Scott Fishbowl drafts kicking off. It's a fun time of year, so yeah, it's an exciting time to talk football and fantasy, and it's great, man. This is the time of year that we all love.
Yes, it is. I was at my live draft this Sunday at Philly. A lot of fun. Definitely recommend doing one live draft if you can. It was a lot of fun, and obviously for great cars. And of course, we have our guest today, Derek Brown from Fantasy Pros. What is going on, Derek?
What's going on, guys? I'm excited to be here, sitting here to talk some stuff. And yeah, man, the Scott Fishbowl stuff popping off. I mean, basically, that just rings the bell at the beginning of the fantasy season, and we kind of hopped into this. I was professional gaslighting Jibbs a little bit before we went on Kick Live, but, you know, that's how you got to do it, baby. You got to get the sauce ready and let people know how the sausage is made, you know?
Absolutely. So, again, we're going to have a great show today, guys. We're going to be talking about quarterbacks, going to do sleepers, busts, and breakouts, basically just players that we obviously like, don't like, and then mix in between here. So, before we get into it, Derek, I did have one question for you since you are our guest, and we're going to be doing guest questions this month here. And it's just one easy question. How do you handle quarterbacks in your redraft leagues? What kind of strategy do you like? Do you like taking quarterbacks early? Do you prefer them late? How do you feel about quarterbacks in a whole?
To me, it just comes down to what's the board giving you? What's the draft giving you? Obviously, format makes a lot, but from the lens of like a one quarterback format, I don't have a problem drafting guys that I believe in that have that type of upside early, especially in that what we're going to talk about here, and everybody knows it, man. At this point, we're all talking about the guys that have that rushing ability. So the guys that can access that top 3 type of outcome, that top 5 type of outcome, the guys that could be difference makers. You know, so last year I was massive on Jalen Hurts, never pushed off of that. I'm still on that bag this year. You know, but guys like that in fantastic offensive situations that have the rushing ability to just absolutely just break shit. That's the guys I will draft aggressively. Guys going later. It just kind of depends on the draft, how it goes too, because I think that we are also in a really good year that there's a lot of guys up and down the board that really can fit a lot of different flavors, man. Like, I know, you know, a few of these guys like are not on our show sheet. We may not bring them up, but like, dude, like just bringing up Geno Smith, for instance. Like if you wanted to wait on Geno Smith this year, like, good Lord. Like, why do people hate that man? Like, all he did was put up top 12 numbers. He got more offensive weapons in the offseason, and people were like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. But he's not top 12. And I'm like, okay. He just showed you top 12 last year, and this situation's done nothing but improve. But sure, whatever. Let's say it on Geno Smith. But this is all to say, man, it depends on the draft room and stuff, but I have no problem with drafting aggressive to get my guys that I believe in that have that type of upside, because I don't play all these damn ADP games and shit. Like, go draft your dudes. If you're listening to this show, you're doing your own homework and stuff like that, you know what's up. So, like, why are you going to sit here and be like, well, he could come back to me next round? What happens out of that is you get your ass sniped and you get to watch Jalen Hurts, Justin Fields, whoever you're big into this year, crush on somebody else's team, and you're hating life. Like, don't play those kind of games. Draft players, if you're doing the homework and you watching shows, and apparently if you're tuning into this early, you are a degen. Welcome. It's good to have you. But, like, This is all to say you need to draft for upside and you need to draft like you write. Because if not, what's the point of doing all this research and homework that you're spending your time doing?
Couldn't agree more with you, to be honest. I've been doing that in my Scott Fishbowl draft. I've been just taking players that I want in a general sense a couple of rounds early because I know they won't be there on my way back. So
Damn right.
Take your players.
Got
so love that. All right, guys. So let's get into the main topic of today's show. Obviously, we were talking quarterbacks. We're going to start negative at first and talk about busts here. And Derek, since you're our guest, you get to go first on that and tell us your QB you're not feeling this year.
and this is one of those things. It's like when you're crafting that type of upside outcome for Aaron Rodgers in New York, what does that look like, man? Like, what does it look like? He has to throw like 40 touchdown passes, like, and outside of, and I know everybody's high on Garrett Wilson. Well, what are these other weapons that we're getting like so excited for in New York? Like, okay, Al Lazard, everybody got hyped about him. We realized that, a lot of people realize I was not that big in Lazard last year, but they realized that should have never been a thing. And you got what, Corey Davis, you got Mecole Hardman, Corey, like all these other guys there where it's like, Randall Cobb, we know is going to get too many targets that he doesn't deserve at this point in his career. Like, the problem with creating these type of like high upside scenarios for Aaron Rodgers is he's going to need passing touchdowns. And if he doesn't get the passing touchdowns, because the pace ain't going to be there, people. Like, him and Nathaniel Hackett and plus Todd Downing's goofy ass hanging out in the background over there in New York, like, they're going to run a slow as shit offense. They're going to be bottom 5 in neutral pace. We know that. We've seen it. We've seen what this looks like, people. And if Aaron Rodgers, I'm not saying that Aaron Rodgers is going to be a bad NFL quarterback, but if you're hoping for a top 10, top 12 type of outcome for Aaron Rodgers, that's the part where I'm like, I can't put him up there, man. Like, I've got him ranked as a mid QB too. And this is not because I just absolutely hate Aaron Rodgers, but this is coming down to like, where is that just like absolute pure run out outside of passing touchdowns going to come for Aaron Rodgers? And if he doesn't get that, if he finishes with like, even if he finishes with like say 30 passing touchdowns, is that going to be enough versus all these rushing guys or guys that are in offenses that will throw the ball more or a combination of the two? How does he get to where like at the end of this year, Aaron Rodgers was like one of the quarterbacks you had to draft? And to me, that's where I have the problem. It's like, I have a problem not giving you a narrative of how Aaron Rodgers can be passable, be good, be start-worthy, stream-worthy. Those are all fine. But the run out of where Aaron Rodgers finishes as a top 5, top 8 type of quarterback, hell, even top 12. And it's like, you looking back at your roster saying, shit, man, I wish I'd have drafted Aaron Rodgers. That would have been the key to this season. Like, I don't see anybody that's out there saying that, man. So it's like, why am I even going to put Aaron Rodgers on the draft board when it's like, what's that type of pure run out for him, man? Like, what's that look like? So, yeah, I mean, I'm going to be avoiding a lot of Aaron Rodgers in most of my drafts out of like a sprinkling here and there in best ball for maybe some correlation. Outside of that, you can miss me with Aaron Rodgers. There's a lot of like QB2s I will draft ahead of him. Again, like bringing up Geno Smith. Give me Geno. I got Geno Smith ranked as a top 12 quarterback. You ain't going to find Aaron Rodgers in my top 12.
Mm-mm.
No, I love that. This was one of my favorite picks that you probably made in the entire thing here. I mean, people just name value Aaron Rodgers and start a new team, Garrett Wilson, that's going to thrive. I mean, last year, one game over 21 fantasy points. Like, he wasn't that good. I think the name value kicks in for Aaron Rodgers completely. Boys, how do you feel about this? Do you agree or do you disagree maybe?
Come on, guys. Give me some hate here.
I actually don't. I'd love to. I would love to push back, but I really can't. I think, Derek hit right on the head. I mean, he's going at quarterback 17, and I think that's probably best case scenario is he finishes like quarterback 17 to 14. It's like, I don't see a world unless he and again, if you say, okay, he's going to throw for 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns, you're like, okay, where are those going? Like, they're not going to go anywhere. Like, it's just, so I think we're right. I think it's probably good for the Jets. They need to sell tickets. They need to keep fan bases interested. But in terms of fantasy, it's like, I'm over Aaron Rodgers. It's just the days of him being a top 5 asset is just gone. And so, he's going to be more of a game manager. He'll take his shots with Garrett Wilson at times, but their defense is nasty and they're going to try and win games, much slower than expected.
You know what he doesn't do? He doesn't run. So I don't think I think that division's gonna be tough. Like, Rodgers should be decent on the Jets, but he ain't gonna be nothing for fantasy. Like, he's just another guy. Like, so you move on. I've been off that train for a couple years now.
I'm going to throw a wrench into the gears here, guy. I want to give you this or that real fast. I want to kick this around the horn because I think people there's a quarterback that's going really late, and I will draft him over Aaron Rodgers. I have him ranked over Aaron Rodgers because I think there's an upside scenario, but I'm curious where y'all are at, and maybe I'll get some hate on this one. Tell me, you're on the clock. Who are you going to draft, Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers? I'm going Big Russ.
I'm Russ all day, baby.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go.
Definitely
Yes.
Russ.
Let's ride.
Absolutely.
Oh, John, come on.
I'm thinking about hold on.
Come on.
We can't sweep this. Like, I'm trying to upset the balance here, and everybody's like, yeah, that's a good idea. Like, that's not how that
I'm
goes.
sorry. It's close. It's close. That is good.
We just all hate Aaron Rodgers.
Weapons. I like some of the passing weapons around Russ a little bit better, so I'll take Russ. But that's similar tier. They're both kind of.
Damn, I thought I was going to get some hate on that.
Maybe the next one.
Not a ton. No.
Well.
I'm expecting. I mean, Russ was so bad last year. I can't expect him to be that bad again. Like, he was so bad.
God, I hope not.
Terrible.
Well, and even if he's terrible, that as old as Russ is, he's still going to offer you more rushing equity than even Aaron Rodgers will.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, for sure. Yep. Yeah, I'll give you that.
Looking at this picture, if you guys are watching on our YouTube channel at the Fantasy Coaches, it just looks like someone's dad is like proud of his son, like made the JV team. He's like, yeah, look at my son.
Oh,
It should be Photoshop with Aaron Rodgers holding up like a Zach Wilson jersey. That would be fantastic. Like, that would be perfect for the face that he's making here.
I'm about to tweak this photo a little bit here.
Yeah, that's funny.
All right, so let's see if we can get some differences on the next player here. John, you're up here. Who is your quarterback bust for 23?
So my quarterback bust is Deshaun Watson. And listen, I want to start by saying I understand the upside. I get that. And I sure, if that's what you want to go on, go for it. But he was so historically bad after taking 2 seasons off. He had a 58% completion percentage, which is his lowest since his rookie year. He had a touchdown rate of 4.1, which is his lowest ever. He had an interception rate of 2.9, which is his highest ever, and his QBR of 38.3. So even if he rushes at his maximum when he was in Houston, he was rushing for 700 yards. So even if he's that bad of a passer, that terrible, I don't care. You'd have to rush for 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns to make up for it. So, I mean, I get that they brought in Elijah Moore. I get that it's year 2. Maybe he was rusty. But look, I just think there is a lot that went into this. The 2 years that he took away from football was a lot. And he dealt with a lot of crap. And now he's in a situation where Amari Cooper isn't exactly a game breaker. You're talking about upside with other people, your projections for Njoku. I mean, to me, at quarterback 9, there's too much risk there. I would much rather have Trevor Lawrence. I would much rather have some of these other guys that are going around him in this, high end, QB rating. Like, again, is there upside? For sure. If everything clicks and he totally figures it out and he goes back to his 2018 self, yeah, shame on me. But in 2023, 5 years removed from when he was a legitimate fantasy superstar, I'll take my chances with other players. I'll just take my chances elsewhere. It's just, to me, Deshaun Watson risk. People are talking about upside, but the upside to me is such a low percentage chance that it's not even worth taking that risk.
Because he had a bad season, John? Come on.
He had a bad season. And
saying he had a bad
off.
season is also like underscoring. His season wasn't just bad. He played like doo-doo butter last year, dude.
Yeah.
He played for a year and a half.
Horrible.
He was QB4 the last 2 weeks of the season.
Okay. He also had the 4th lowest big-time throw rate behind such studs as Matt Ryan and Joe Flacco. But I mean, let's not bury the lead here too much. Deshaun Watson's the lead, right?
I mean, I get it. Obviously, last year watching him play was pretty bad. I remember the first game back, I was like, oh, who is this guy on the field right now? He definitely does not deserve the guarantee money he got. But it was only like 3 years ago he led the lead in passing. There's potential for him to come back. I get it. It's risky where his ADP is. Absolutely, I get it. But there's still upside there. You have Amari Cooper. I think Amari Cooper can still be a high end too. You have the upside of Elijah Moore. You have Donovan Peoples-Jones, who's a nice deep threat. You have Cedric Tillman that's there now. And you have David Njoku, who's a pretty top 10 tight end right now. I mean, I feel like the upside is there for him to bounce back. I mean, yes, last season was not great to watch, but he was a talented quarterback prior to this whole situation. And I still think there's potential for him to get back. Now he's in the motions again. He's in training camp. He's in mini camp. He's in all these positions where he wasn't allowed to do that for the last 2.5 years. So I think there's potential there still. I still like Deshaun Watson. I could see him finishing at QB now.
I could also see him finishing at QB 23.
No,
it's like,
wow.
No,
that's crazy.
I'll bet you that he does not finish lower than 15.
Well, I mean,
people could say that about Russ Wilson.
Saying much. 15?
The same thing about Russ Wilson.
Wow, you're putting your feet in this. Oh my God, Lord, 15?
12. Top
I thought you were making
QB1.
a stand here.
He's a QB1. At the end of the season, he'll be a QB1.
We will talk offline. I'm going to make a bet with you. I have a feeling.
QB1.
So here's my thing. Why draft Deshaun Watson? Because to me, the risk is not baked in. We have it up here on the screen. He's going as QB9.
Yes.
So, we're hoping that he gets, if you draft him at that spot, you're hoping that he pays off. To pay off is not just that he's a QB1. To pay off at that spot, he's got to be what? QB7, QB5?
He's got to be top 5.
There's not as much yeah, you're basically making the bet that he's top 5 because past that, it feels like you're burning equity. It'd be a different conversation for me if Watson was being drafted outside the top 12 quarterbacks. But I feel like there's enough of the upside potential, at least baked into the current ADP, that it's there's not that much of the meat on the bone.
Right.
I'm surprised people are so high on him, to be honest. I mean, I am. I like Watson, but I'm surprised.
You said QB15, so we're not that high, right?
No. Not at all.
Well, no, but what ADP says, he's going higher than I would have thought he would based on, I think, a lot of people out there in the industry. So
yeah, I'm just giving you shit, Steve. That's just gonna hang around here. The QB15 quote.
Keep it going. Usually I'm the one getting shit.
Bring this shit talk.
John's egging me on. I'm gonna blame it on John too.
Anything you want to say just before we go to you?
I don't like Deshaun Watson at that price, but I do see the appeal. But I don't know. I'd rather go with something safe around there because I definitely don't have any semblance of really good offensive play from last year. So,
oh, don't worry, Jibs is gonna get his hate. Okay, I'm percolating. I started it before the show started, baby. Okay, you give your case, but I gotta hear this.
Put it back on.
I mean, it's.
Hey, whoa.
Let me buckle in.
Simple.
Man.
It's simple, guys.
Who's your guy?
Man.
It's Lamar Jackson. And I'm jaded.
Lord.
I'm jaded. I've drafted Lamar Jackson on 2 or 3 teams the last 3 years. Okay. And don't get me wrong, I'll be back for him this year again, probably on a couple of teams. But you see that ADP at 38, I'm just so torn of doing it. I know he could be the elite passer now because he has a new offensive coordinator and made things look bright in Baltimore. And everything could go right. He could have maybe some of his rushing knocked off. But for me, over the last 2 or 3 years, I get Lamar Jackson all the way up to what? Week 14. Week 14. You know when that starts? Fantasy playoffs start. You know what I don't have typically when I draft Lamar Jackson high? A good QB2. I mismanage my teams. But I just don't want to take the risk personally. Don't get me wrong. Lamar Jackson's great. He's probably the best. I'm going to get me a bunch of Jalen Hurts this year, but if I don't get Lamar Jackson, I'm probably going to be in on Justin Fields. So those are my only 2 disagrees. Maybe we get somebody younger, but I'm saying off him. That's just me, but he's a great player. So T on me.
So
Jibs.
I mean, I'll
Just
back up a
why,
little
man?
bit there, buddy. Once everyone else is done.
Jibs, why? Just why, man? Like when I saw this name, I was like, what are we doing here, baby? Like, what? I mean, like, Jackson to me is a league winner. Like, that's the way I look at him this year. I've got him higher than consensus. Like, you're talking about, you balking a little bit at the QB5. I got him as QB2 on my board, baby. Like, I'm all in for it. And this comes down to people. I get so sick of, and this is not you. I'm not throwing this at you, Jibs. Okay, so don't hear what I'm not saying here. Okay.
Oh no.
But like, I get tired of people talking about Lamar Jackson as the passer that he is, man. And this comes down to, in the previous Baltimore iterations of this offense, one we done seen by it's been authored by Greg Roman's goofy ass who just wants to run the ball every time. Like, you could sit here and go back to like 1920s clips of like we're watching black and white football games here, man. Dude just wants to run it and throw it 15 times a game. But if you look at like when Lamar Jackson was on the field last year, before Rashad Bateman got vaporized and he was off the field, when the man's actually had decent weapons around him, he's produced extremely well. And so, like, that's what I come down on Lamar Jackson. I think he could break fantasy this year. Like, if all these things hit with the amount of weapons he's got around him, and it's not even just like, oh, he's got one really good receiver. Like Odell, I think Odell's washed, but Odell could be a red zone guy. You're not asking Odell to be anything more than he is at this point in his career, because he's going to be behind Mark Andrews. He's going to be behind Shoddy B this year, who's, again, going to have a monster breakout season, and Zay Flowers. So, like, before his weapons crumbled last year, and I know this is people going to come at me with this, a small sample size. It's not my fault that all of his weapons couldn't stay healthy, and we only got 3 games to watch what Lamar can do with anybody out there that can catch passes and ain't running wind sprints like Demarcus Robinson's ass, okay? So weeks 1 through 3, Lamar Jackson was averaging 34 fantasy points per game. And if that shit sounds crazy to you, it's because it is. That's a ludicrous number. But his efficiency numbers also back it up, man. Like, he was top 3 in PFF passing grade, big time throw rate, and yards per attempt. So, like, give this man weapons and put him, because we still have not seen Lamar Jackson in an actually modernized offense like Todd Monken is going to run this year. And if anybody's watched any kind of interviews with Todd Monken, he talks about the things that you want to hear out of an offensive coordinator. Not about like, all right, let's run heavy personnel, and we're going to go up the gut, baby. Design runs with Lamar. No. Like, Todd Monken's talking about, it's all about space. You sit here and take advantage of space. You put guys in space to sit here and get yak opportunities, drop easy plays, easy completions, and you sit here and you eat teams up with space. Baltimore's going to go nuclear this year, man. I'm all in for it. I'm in for Lamar Jackson.
You okay, Jibs?
I'm fine.
I still love you, Jibs. I'm sorry, man. I told you it was coming.
I'm sorry.
But I also, because I can attest, I could also pick someone pretty low hanging fruit too.
Don't worry. Remember the last episode I was talking negative on Lamar Jackson, so
I know.
I gave it to you this week, so.
Oh, yeah. Steve's staying quiet. He's like,
Yeah, I don't want none of this.
But
I feel like
totally
you're
agree
drafting
with
him
you.
at his ceiling. That's all I feel. I feel like you're drafting him at his ceiling.
Lamar?
Yeah, I feel like that's his ceiling, QB5.
We've seen
No
him be the
way.
QB1 overall. How
No
is QB5 his ceiling,
I
Steve?
just don't see him rushing for another 1,000-yard season, personally.
How not? Are his legs broke?
I just don't see the offense going that same direction where he's going to be running 1,000 yards. There's only been one quarterback since over at the age of 25 to run over 1,000 yards, and that was Michael Vick a long time ago. In the last 20 years, I looked it up.
All right, hold on. Let me push back about that. Pure rushing talent. Who would you take, Vic or L-Jax?
Oh, L-Jax, yes,
Hey.
L-Jax.
I mean, and so wait a minute. You just you didn't even have to count to 2 on that one. So you'll take Lamar Jackson as a pure rushing talent over Michael Vick, but you don't believe he's going to run anymore.
He's going to run for like 700 yards, yeah, but I just don't see another 1,000-yard season for him.
Is that not enough if he throws more?
I don't know. I feel like he's Mac. I just don't see it happening again. I feel like this offense is going to open up where they're going to pass the ball more, and I just don't see it working. I feel like we're going to see the running game get back with J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards. We're going to see them run the ball more. I don't think they're going to find ways to put Lamar Jackson in situations where he's consistently running the ball like they were doing in the past. It hasn't worked for their offense. They know what's coming. The defenses might not be able to stop him, but they know they're going to try to slow him down a little bit, and they're going to have to find different ways to get this Baltimore Ravens team over the hump here by passing the ball, using that threat that Jackson has shown us at small sample size. I just don't see another 1,000-yard season out of him. If he does that, yeah, he's QB1. I just don't see it happening.
I'm going to be drafting a lot of Lamar Jackson this year, I think. I think from this conversation, I think I'm going to be drafting a lot.
God. I'm scared for my next player here, so this is going to be fun. So let's get over to that. So my quarterback bust, guys, and this is going to be tough. I get a lot of people are upset about it probably because people love Anthony Richardson. I love Anthony Richardson in Dynasty. I'm excited for him long term.
Great job. First time we had a guest walk off, Steve.
He's gone. He's gone from the show, guys. He's coming back. All right, so let me just talk instead of bullshit.
Is he done? Is he done hating on Anthony Richardson? Did I miss it?
He didn't even start.
Oh God, he hasn't started. Fine, right, Steve. Go ahead. Start. Damn it.
So I get people might think, oh, his value is pretty solid, obviously, but I feel like that's going to rise. I mean, I feel like by the time August gets here, he's going to be a top 10 quarterback. People are going to fall in love with what they see in training camp and everything. So that's kind of what I'm projecting slightly on this. But the way I see it, Anthony Richardson, great dynasty quarterback, long-term love him. He's probably the most physical specimen in a general sense for football I've ever seen to be able to throw and run the ball. Better than Lamar Jackson. But we've seen over the years rookie quarterbacks and have not really performed at a QB1 level. 2 over the last 5 years, just twice in the last 5 years, we've seen a quarterback finish as a QB1, and we have a lot of great young quarterbacks in the league nowadays. Inconsistencies there. I think that he doesn't start the beginning of the season. That's what I'm projecting. I don't think he starts the first month of the season. I feel like if you look at other situations, some of these other mobile quarterbacks over the years, no one's had a decent amount of backup quarterback or veteran quarterback like Gardner Minshew to be able to get on the field. I'm not saying Gardner Minshew is a great guy or anything like that, but I think Minshew will earn himself enough time to try it out for the first month of the season and be like, all right, now we're going to go to our young rookie quarterback here. So I feel like he's going to miss time in the beginning of the year just from that. So finishing where he's going to finish, I think that is a potential, but I don't think it's going to happen. You look at some of these other mobile quarterbacks over the years in their rookie seasons who have just as much upside in terms of rushing as Anthony Richardson does. And Kyler Murray, he was one quarterback that finished all 16 games, finished the QB1. So, you look at Josh Allen. Josh Allen had hit strides in the fantasy playoffs for us, but other portions of the season, not very good for fantasy. You look at Jalen Hurts. He had 2 games that he played decent in his rookie year. Other games, it left to be desired. You look at Lamar Jackson. He only had 2 games his rookie season over 20 fantasy points. The rest of the games, under 20 fantasy points. And then if you look at Justin Fields, just 2 games over 17 fantasy points his rookie season. So the way I see it is that Richardson will probably do 2 or 3 really games that he's going to go over 25 fantasy points. People are going to go nuts. But we saw in college, the inconsistency is there. He's going to probably have a couple of big scoring games, but then he's going to give you 11-point games because how bad of a passer that he is. I just don't see it as rookie season. I'm excited for his career. I'm hoping that Shane Steichen can get him to where we like to see Jalen Hurts this past season, but I don't see it as a rookie. I think there's too much inconsistency that you're going to pick him up on your team. And if you want to he's going in round 9. If you want to take him in round 9, yes, the value is not as risky, but you're going to get games where he's going to put 25 up there. But I just don't think it's going to be consistent enough where he's helping your team, but hurting your team because you're putting him in that situation because you think he's going to put up 25 points of his rushing. I think there's going to be more games where you're seeing 15, 13 points because he's not throwing the ball very accurately or efficiently at all season long. That's why I see him as a bust in 2030. Please don't leave Derek again. Please stay.
Anybody want to hop in here with their A-Rich thoughts for me and Steve fight?
Go for it, Jibs.
I don't disagree, but at the
it's a little bit better. Right now, yes, his ADP is fine, but I expect that to rise over the next month.
It's funny. I think it will go down in casual leagues. I think less people in casual leagues will, home league. I feel like less people will want to draft Anthony Richardson.
They see him in practice throwing an 80-yard bomb.
Maybe.
I mean,
maybe
people are going to remember that name. I'm just saying.
But I will also say, you brought up one thing too, and I will also say there is no chance Gardner Minshew starts a game. There is no chance unless there is an injury.
Why not?
There's no chance. There's no chance unless there is an injury. There is zero chance.
Offense.
You don't take a guy as high as Anthony Richardson with the profile Anthony Richardson have to roll out Gardner Minshew. You don't do it. You just Gardner Minshew is an unbelievable backup. If Anthony Richardson gets hurt and things go that direction, then yeah, you can fall back on Gardner Minshew. Good backup to have. But there is zero, I'm telling you right now, 0% chance Anthony Richardson's healthy and he's not starting. So that's that. So that's all I have to say.
Shane Steichen, everything else. This is his project. I'm just saying this is Shane Steichen's project. He needs to make sure he takes his time with this, just like they did with Jalen Hurts. They need to take their time with this man.
Jim, listen.
Why throw him in?
Wait.
Jalen Hurts was in a totally different situation.
Okay,
hold on. When we talking about taking the time, Jalen Hurts got thrown in for starts in his rookie year without even working with the first team offense.
Right.
What we talk about taking your time?
And and this is the thing too. The business side of football, I think, as fantasy, we forget. Listen, Jim Irsay doesn't want to sit around and wait for Anthony Richardson to turn into something. He's like, we just took this guy as high as we took him. My team is on the edge of a rebuild. I need Anthony Richardson to work out, and I need to find that out now. I can't wait a year and a half to figure this out. Like, I need to figure this out right now if we screwed up or not. And so I don't know. I think you're right in terms of the lows. There will definitely be lows with Anthony Richardson for sure. You'll have bad games. But I don't think it's I think, again, quarterback 14 is rich, but if you're going to take that chance, that's the chance. That's when you have to take it. Like, you're looking at that point, you're looking at guys like Daniel Jones or Anthony Richardson. It's like, I'd rather Anthony Richardson. Like, there's a chance that he could be a top 5 guy. There's not a chance Daniel Jones is a top 5 guy. So that's kind of
we'll never get
fine words. Damn,
am I gonna get pushback on this right now?
It ain't coming now, but it's coming, John. Just wait for it, baby. It's coming.
Pushback on Daniel Jones.
Oh, you better believe you're gonna get pushback on Daniel Jones, baby.
Give your take on Richardson, and we'll move on. Come on,
all right,
dude. All right. Well, so if y'all think that's spicy, y'all really gonna hate the fact that I got Anthony Richardson ranked as QB 10. Look, if he starts all the games, there's no way that Anthony Richardson's not going to be a top 12 quarterback for the rushing equity alone. The rushing is going to put him there, because what do we just see with Shane Steichen? I'm like, okay. They're going to use a lot of play action. They're going to use design runs. They're going to use the shit out of tush pushing his ass into the end zone, okay? We just saw this with Jalen Hurts. Like, all those things can happen. And if we want, and let me build you the upside case scenario about how Anthony Richardson fits with Shane Steichen's offense. The two big staples, and he talks about, Shane Steichen, two things, has talked about in his offensive system creating explosive plays. Explosives are the name of the game, and that's how you sit here and put points up on the board. How do you do that? You sit here and you throw deep and you use play action. We've seen that with Jalen Hurts. Like last year, Jalen Hurts, 7th in deep attempts, 4th in play action passing attempts. You marry that with, I get that Anthony Richardson's passing profile in college is not the most glittering. I'm not telling you he's out here. I mean, my comp for A-Rich since he came out was I comped him to Colin Kaepernick. Like, he needs to work on touch passing and the finer points of being a precision passer. But saying that he's absolutely inaccurate, I don't think is painting the right picture on A-Rich, because if you look at those two staples, one throwing deep and utilizing play action, Anthony Richardson last year, his final year in college, he was 5th in play action passing grade per PFF, and he was also top 20 against all collegiate passers in both play action yards per attempt and deep PFF passing grade. So the staples of this offense that the Colts are going to rely on are Anthony Richardson's legs. I think they're going to dumb things down. And I'm not saying that Anthony Richardson's dumb, so don't hear me That is not what I'm saying. They're going to simplify things for him. A lot of this is going to be RPOs and going to your first read. And some of the same things that Dayball did last year for Daniel Jones. It's drop back, RPO, first read. If it's not there, take off. And to make things simpler for Anthony Richardson acclimating to the NFL game, they're also going to use a lot of play action and a lot of deep passing. And I think, honestly, you look at where he succeeded in that muddled passing profile from college, these are the things that sticks out as like, shit, Anthony Richardson does this well. Okay, he's going to the perfect system to ask him to do these things more. I wouldn't be as high on Anthony Richardson if he had gone to the freaking Houston Texans. If he'd gone to another offensive system that wasn't going to utilize, and the other thing about it is like, Shane Steichen has a long enough track record with not only mobile quarterbacks, but quarterbacks in general, and especially rookie quarterbacks. Everybody points to Jalen Hurts and what he did with Jalen Hurts. Can we also go a little bit farther back and talk about what the hell Justin Herbert did as him as an offensive coordinator in his first freaking year with the Chargers? Without working with the first team, Tyrod was the starter throughout camp, all of that stuff. And Justin Herbert just like jumped off the hop and said, shit, I'm that dude. What's up? Let's play. Like, I mean, but to me, that conversation just doesn't start a dynasty. It starts this year. And like, if A-Rich plays all the games, he's going to run. He's going to have rushing touchdowns. And the passing is going to be high enough that even if you were to sit here and make comparisons, and I'm not telling you that he's going to run for as many yards per game as Justin Fields, but we could put him up there as a similar rushing talent. Maybe people want to make the comparison and say A-Rich is a better rushing talent. I don't care. I feel like we're just splitting hairs there. But to me, we've seen Justin Fields also put up elite game-breaking numbers as a top 3, top 5 fantasy quarterback without throwing the ball at all, hardly. So to say that Anthony Richardson in an offensive system that is conducive to his archetype and how he plays quarterback, I'm not going to bet against that. Shit, no. I'm going to lean into it and say, we going upside, baby? And I'm tipping my hat here. So if you're in my Scott Fishbowl draft this Saturday, turn this off right now. But I bet you my ass, if Anthony Richardson is there in the second round of the Scott Fishbowl draft, I'm drafting his ass all day. I will press that button and holler that name up there so fast I will either break my phone or I will get somebody's eardrums to explode.
I feel hurt now. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh no, the hurt's coming whenever me and John fight about Daniel Jones. That's when the hurt's coming. I'm probably gonna be hurt by what John says.
Let's get to the breakouts now. Derek, you're back up on the top here. Who's your breakout quarterback? Kind of already discussed it a little bit, but go for it.
Yeah, I mean, this is a professional transition, my man. Daniel Jones, that's my guy. Like, I've got him as QB 10, and the thing about it is, like, I don't understand why we're not as high, like, as a consensus on Daniel Jones. You'll see him ranked as a QB 2 in a lot of different places, and for me, I'm like, why? Like, what do we got to see out of Daniel Jones? He was damn near the top in every efficiency metric that you saw last year out of passers. He runs. I don't think his rushing equity or anybody's saying that his rushing equity is going anywhere. So what do we need to see out of Daniel Jones to give him an even higher ceiling for a guy that was QB 10 in fantasy points per game last year? And again, the Giants didn't throw the ball at all until down the stretch. Now, the back half of the season, and this is where I think really Daniel Jones' ceiling, and I think he does have top 5 upside this year. I'm going to throw that out there. Is because after we saw the Giants get some semblance of pass-catching talent on the field, outside of dealing with injuries and inconsistencies and just saying, oh, shit, man, how long are we going to run Kenny Galladay's old ass out here? Okay, we done doing that? Okay, cool. How about we stop that? Because Isaiah Hodgins can run circles around his ass at this point. So once we got to that point, you saw over the back half of last season, the Giants were they were scraping the top 12 in neutral pace, EPA per play, success rates, points per game, all of these different parts or pieces. And now, and everybody wants to make all these jokes about, oh, the Giants signed like 10 slot wide receivers. What they did was sign a bunch of wide receivers they're not going to ask to carry their passing attack. They signed a bunch of guys that are going to both allow them to have depth, and they're going to put those guys in situations to where their skill set, they can succeed. I'm telling you that what the Giants are going to do this year is very, very similar to what Kansas City did last year. And I'm not telling you that he's going to be Patty Mahomes. But what I'm saying is we all kind of looked at Kansas City's wide receiver room last year and we said, man, you know what? How is Patrick Mahomes going to do this? Well, when you build your wide receiver room to be not a we got to lean on one dude, but it's a committee of guys, and we're going to put those guys in good situations both to play out of the slot, run after catch opportunities. What are you good at? Can you stretch the field and not put guys in situations where they can't succeed? Then yes, you can get by with that when your wide receiver one is a difference maker, and I'm going to say it's still elite tight end in Darren Waller, because outside of the hamstring stuff and the injury stuff, when he's been on the field, there ain't no damn efficiency metric somebody could point to me last year that says Darren Waller has fallen off and he is still not a really damn good tight end. He was top 12 in PFF receiving grade, yards per route run. He led all tight ends in yards per route run against man coverage, which is what you look for to find those elite type of tight ends that can be the difference makers. Darren Waller, as long as health is there, is going to be the unquestioned wide receiver one in this offense. And for the way that I look at it, all these things are trending up for Daniel Jones. He got better weapons. The offensive line got upgraded. He's in the second year of this offensive system. So where Dayball last year said, we need to rebuild you from the ground up. We're going to lean on your legs. We're going to sit here and make things easier on you. And this year, now we open up the playbook some more. And you have better weapons to do that. Yeah, man. Daniel Jones is probably going to be one of my highest rostered quarterbacks this season.
John, any rebuttal?
Well, no. I mean, listen. I guess Daniel Jones was it was a bad pick in the comparison, but I don't know. I guess I'm not as bullish or as confident as Debro that he has this sort of top 5 potential. Like I think he's a very solid quarterback, very, very good. You know, he can rush for 500 yards on a season, great. But can he throw for 30, 40 touchdowns? Like that's the question I don't know about Daniel Jones. He likes to throw interceptions. He likes to fumble the ball. That kills an offensive drive. I just think that, Daniel Jones is great. He's certainly underrated. He's probably closer to like quarterback 8 than I probably have him ranked like quarterback 13, 14. So he's probably closer to that top 10, but I don't know if there is that like win you a league type of upside with Daniel Jones, like we talked about with Lamar, like we talk about with, Jalen Hurts last year and some of these other that like, if everything clicks, all of a sudden he's the number 1 scoring fantasy option by a mile. And it's like, I just don't know if that's there for Daniel Jones. Like, yeah, he's great. He's really good, but he could have a career arc of Kirk Cousins. Like he could have which is, fine. He's super solid, great quarterback. And it's just for me, I guess, in one quarterback league, Superflex, it gets a little different, but one quarterback league, I'm looking for guys who can absolutely dominate my league and be far and above better than everybody else. And so that's where I just kind of I just kind of lose taste in Daniel Jones. It's like, yeah, it's great. He's super solid. Like he can have good weeks. He can rush he might have a week where he rushes 2 in for you. And you're like, holy crap, this is awesome. But I don't know. I just think that there's in my mind, there isn't this world where he could be, he's not beating out Mahomes, Allen, Jackson, Hurts, Fields. Like he's just not going to beat those guys out in fantasy points. So
the pushback I'll say, John, is I don't think he has to throw for 30 touchdowns to get up to that point with his rushing equity.
Okay.
He could throw. I mean, Jalen Hurts, what did he throw for off the top of my head? Was it 22 passing touchdowns?
Okay, I was going to say 26. Yeah, 22 sounds right.
I'll have to look at it. Let me.
It was mid.
Somebody's going to have to double check me on that right now.
I'll look right now.
I want to say it was 22, but another little fun factoid I'll throw out here about Daniel Jones.
22.
Okay, so. Over on fantasypros.com, you can go check out our boom bust report, okay? So looking back at the 2022 NFL season. So the way that we categorize these guys and how often they hit these marks. So just to put this and frame this for people, when I'm telling you that he boomed, this is comparing his output in a game or how often he did this against the average weekly QB3 in points total over the season. So basically, how often was he hitting this? Daniel Jones had the same exact boom rate, and he's tied for 8th with Justin Fields. So,
I might have to do some more research on Daniel Jones then. I just traded away in Dynasty. We couldn't have done this show like a week ago. What the heck?
John, the DMs are open, man. You could have hit me up. I didn't tell you to do that.
I should have reached out, Derek. I should have reached out. God damn it.
Well, the other part about it, the Daniel Jones truthers, and I'm not a truther, but the people that are high, we a little bit like we're in the weeds a little bit, okay? I'm not out there. Well, maybe I'm a little bit louder than some, but not everybody's out there screaming like, "Hey, go draft some Daniel Jones."
Yeah, I get it. We'll get to my sleeper pick. You'll get it. I feel like I'm yelling all by myself.
Jibs, anything you want to mention there?
Nah, carry on.
All right, yeah. All right, let's get over to John's breakout now. John, who's your breakout?
So my breakout pick is Jordan Love. Jordan Love is kind of an easy breakout pick for everybody. So I took the low-hanging fruit. Quarterback 21 right now off the board. He's not left for dead, but he's much later on. Listen, he was a first-round pick not far removed when they absolutely did not need a quarterback at all. And the Packers went and grabbed him. They thought he fell far enough that he was worth it. And they've seen something clearly over the past 3 years that they don't feel like they didn't need to go get another quarterback at any opportunity. They're comfortable with Aaron Rodgers leaving. Everybody and every beat reporter I talk to, everyone around the team feels super confident in Jordan Love's ability. So, really the weapons around, I'll get to the weapons after. So really it's just on Jordan Love to do basically what he is projected to do. He's not projected to be this unbelievable, world-beating Trevor Lawrence-esque guy. No, he's gonna be a solid throw for 3,500 yards, rush for another 500-600, and you hope that the weapons take him over the top. So you have Christian Watson, you have Jaden Reed, you have Romeo Dobbs, they added Luke Musgrave, you have Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon in the backfield. Their offensive line is not terrible. I mean, he's set up to put up points. He's set up to do well. So, quarterback 21, I'm not going to sit here and say he's going to blow up and be a top 5 guy, but there's easily a world where he's in the low teens. He's quarterback 13, 14, and you're like, all right, this is awesome. And so, when you get later on, especially in 2 quarterback drafts, when you get later on, you're looking for that guy who can't just match his ADP, but can beat it. Like, again, we talk about like a Derek Carr. Like, yeah, maybe he hits his ADP. Great. I'll take my chance on a guy that might really beat his ADP. And that's Jordan Love. Super athletic, cannon of an arm. If you don't remember him, because it's been a few years, go back and watch some of his college film. Go back and watch some of his draft grading. People loved him. People were hot and bothered about Trey Lance kind of the same way they were about Jordan Love. So I think there is a world with weapons and a scheme around him where he could really put up good numbers and establish himself as a legitimate starter in the NFL.
Any disagreement from anyone? I like him better as a sleeper than a breakout.
Yeah, I like him as a strong QB2. I think that I've got him ranked in a similar low-end QB2 only because I've got some of those pocket passer guys. Like, I've got Carr above him, and I probably do need to switch that. Well, maybe not Carr, but because I'm actually decently high on Carr. Their schedule is ridiculously easy. But maybe pushing him above something like Matthew Stafford, players like that.
Yeah.
But I like Love. I mean, I think the other part about this LaFleur offensive scheme, and one of the big reasons why I was still remain high on Christian Watson is that and with the addition of Jaden Reed this year is that it's all predicated off of yak, putting these guys in space and putting them having them run crossers, getting them into space, and really making things a little bit easier for Jordan Love because everybody wants to go back and if they want to look at some of those plays that Jordan Love made when he got on the field last year, none of those throws were difficult throws. So the other part about that is I think LaFleur can also put him in situations where he's not going to be asked to do things that are where he's having to raise the floor and the ceiling on the offense. I think the scheme can also help him out a good bit. And, I mean, just look where they're surrounding him with. It's all young guys, all athletic guys, all guys that they're pushing their chips in. And whether we want to talk about Jaden Reed, we want to talk about Christian Watson, you want to talk about Dubs, you want to talk about Tucker Kraft. All of these guys can create something after the catch. Now, that's obviously there's various levels to that, but is all to say that these are players that fit the Green Bay Packers offensive scheme, and what they're going to ask out of Jordan Love, especially in a fantasy, to do, I think that he's not going to sit here and have to do a lot of the heavy lifting, and they're not going to ask the same things that they did out of Aaron Rodgers to really make this offense hum. I think they're going to set up Jordan Love well. Now, the question is, can he make that step? It's possible. I'll take shots on him.
Anyone else, Jibs?
Yeah, I don't mind Love. Like I think he's if they sat him for God knows like 5-6 years, he better be doing something damn right. Shit. Excuse my language. But like I do like the pieces around there. I'm like they have like even the running game, they have Jones, they still have Dylan, they have things that could operate. I don't think they're gonna just let this guy out to dry. So like I think I have an optimistic view. Steve, you saw me kind of like stockpile some Jordan Loves in our couple of dynasty leagues, so like I do like his outlook.
Okay, all right. So Jibs, let's get over to your breakout quarterback. Who we got?
I got your man.
Speak it.
Sorry.
Oh, too far.
I got
speak
Tua.
it, baby.
I got Tua Tagovailoa. Maybe not true that. Sorry. The only thing that could stop him. There's a couple reasons why I love Tua this year. Obviously, I don't think he's gonna get concussions this year, but dude, this guy was balling before everything that transpired last year. I love that he has literally a top 3 wide receiver tandem on his team that we're drafting 2 of these guys before the 3rd round. Tua, I believe, had like 3,500 passing yards before he kind of at the season's end. So like, I think if he stay healthy and kind of round out the year, I think he could be a 4,500-yard passer. The Miami Dolphins were basically the 6th best offense in the NFL last year. They had the 4th most passing yards in the offense, and they threw for the 6th most passing touchdowns. So all those things kind of work in his favor. He just has to kind of stick it out in the field. And I'm just praying. I'm praying. Big Tua, baby. Let's go, baby.
Yeah, let's go Tua. Let's go Tua.
Oh,
Of course. The Dolphins fan is on your side. Of course.
Yeah. So how do you guys feel about Tua as a breakout
Steve,
guy?
do you sleep with that under your pillow? Like, I gotta ask.
It sleeps It sleeps under my one side pillow. Yes, it does.
I mean, like that's nice, man. I love pro Tua conversations, man. I don't understand outside of like the concussion concerns. Like, why do we not love Tua more? Like, what did he not do enough like last year, man? Like, he was a QB9 in fantasy points per game when he played. He showed us immense ceiling outcomes, as well as like, we don't think the offensive coordinator didn't change. Weapons didn't change. If anything, things got better. Like, I don't get it, man. Like, Tua, basically any efficiency metric that you look at, whether it's completion rates, whether it's fantasy points per dropback, whatever you want to parse out about Tua, somebody's going to have to find me a category where the man didn't finish damn near the top of the list in everything. So, like, people want to shade him, or they're like, well, I don't know if we believe, or he doesn't run, or he doesn't do this. It's like, what? Like, what holes you want to poke in this man's game? And people are like, well, but he doesn't run as well. Well, I mean, I can make you a really easy narrative that, like, or a case that bounces back too, because if we looked at the 2 previous seasons, Tua only ran for 70 yards last year. No rushing scores. You look at 20 and 2021, the man was averaging 3 rushing touchdowns per season. So we want to talk about regression. Well, he's probably going to get a rushing touchdown this year, maybe more than that, dude. Man. Like, so, like, I just don't understand why there's still persistent Tua hate. Like, he came out last year and should have shut everybody the hell up as far as haters. Like, he played really well. And yet we still see people, like, clowning the man. Like, he can't throw deep. He can't do this. He can't do that. Well, I'm sorry. I will lean on the side of the fact of the guy that was top 5 in deep ball completion rate, deep ball accuracy ratings. So y'all can get up out of here with all of this. Oh, he can't throw deep. He can't do all these things. Show me a statistical column where Tua wasn't freaking awesome at last year, and then maybe we can have a conversation about how Tua ain't that great.
Tua is fantastic.
Sometimes when he did throw the waddle, that was anomalies.
I don't get it, man. I feel like it's just all these like take lock scenarios, all these people trying to prove how, like, you know, I hated Tua as a prospect. I'm still out on him now. Blah, 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 blah. Like, it's just people sewn up into trying to prove their priors to be right, man. And it's even the concussion stuff. I'm old enough to remember when we were all as a consensus like, man, you know, and it's a different position, okay? But weren't we all out there like saying, man, I don't know if we could draft Brandon Cooks.
Yeah.
Like, one more concussion, he's out the league.
5 years later.
I remember that.
Brandon Cooks is still kicking around. And he's got a new team, and I mean, he's still doing the damn thing, and he's playing a position where people get hit even more. And yet we're worried about Tua sitting here being like, hey, Tua, check the ball down. Hey, Tua, get the ball, get rid of it to your hot read faster. Hey, get rid of the goddamn ball, son. Like, he can't do that. He can't avoid hits and stuff, but we're sitting here worried about all of this. Whatever, man.
There's a lot of great things I'm hearing out of camp from him so far, or whatever this offseason is, that the coaching staff is doing everything they can to find different ways to get him to not get hit as often, obviously. And
Steve, can we also talk about he's thick? That dude is thick.
Yeah, he's thick now. Yeah,
he's got those AJ Dillon quads, baby. He's gonna get them rushing scores. He's like, he's gonna get at the goal line. He's like, you're not stopping these thighs, son.
Eating right this offseason.
The man wants to do well, and I'm thrilled that he's our quarterback right now. So I like the pick there, Jibs. Let's get on to my breakout quarterback here, and it's Mr. Jared Goff himself. Sitting at QB 16. I feel like there's no appreciation for Jared Goff. I feel like everyone thinks he's still a Ram from like 3 years ago. Or actually, it was only 2 years ago this actually happened. But, I mean, end of last season, Jared Goff was amazing November, December last year. Truly amazing. 17-1 touchdown to interception ratio last year with what? Amon St. Brown. They traded TJ Hawkinson at that point. I mean, Josh Reynolds, Khalif Raymond, like there's no one there. And Jameson Williams wasn't even used end of last year, and he performed at a high level for us in fantasy. He was a top 10 quarterback in the back half of the season. He is probably one of the best young offensive line in the game, a division that's very winnable and doesn't have the best defenses. You have a legit wide receiver one on your team. You have a nice young tight end in Sam Laporta that's going to make some noise as a rookie. Jameson Williams will come back after 6 games and probably be used more than just like a few targets he had last year. He's going to be used more in this offense. Jared Goff showed that he can throw the ball deep. Jameson Williams is going to help with that a lot this coming season here. He was also first in drop passes. So his team needs to learn to catch the ball a little bit better. And if they do that this year, Jared Goff could have had a little bit of a different situation. He's got an easy quarterback schedule this coming season here. I mean, they have a good running unit there that I think they might actually rely on the pass just a slight more than they showed last year. They have a better pass catching back in terms of being on the field and being utilized hopefully this year in Gibbs and what they showed with Swift last year. There's no reason why Jared Goff, you're drafting him like that. He could be a major difference for your team this year and show that upside he showed us back in 2018 when everyone was falling in love with him. He's starting to have those similar pieces, a good young offensive line, weapons in the passing game here. There should be no reason why Jared Goff can't break out this season.
Yeah.
Do you guys disagree?
No, I like it, man. I love Goff. I think that if you look at his season overall last year, it was I'm not going to say a season of two halves, but you have to also give it context of when the weeks where he had weapons, when DeAndre Swift wasn't banged up, when you had plus like post TJ Hawkinson trade. And again, I think like looking at some of the things on fantasypros.com, it's like he had the 11th highest top 6 rate amongst all quarterbacks. So like when the man had weapons around him, he was producing. Now I get that Jameson Williams is not going to be out there for the first 6 games, but just like Steve was talking about, Sammy Ballgame is a damn baller, okay? I love Sam Laporta. I think he is going to crush. He might not roll with the receiving yards and stuff like that. I'm not telling you he's going to be a top 12 tight end. He's going to be a red zone weapon. He is going to produce yards after the catch. And also, they still have having Jahmyr Gibbs can also be a plus those first few weeks we're waiting for JMO to come back. And what are we talking about after Jamison Williams comes back? If Jamison Williams is that guy, you're fielding an offense that's starting with Jamison Williams, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sam Laporta, and Jahmyr Gibbs. I'm sorry, that looks pretty damn good to me, baby. Like, that's some good weapons. And nobody's out on Ben Johnson. Everybody likes the offensive coordinator there.
Oh, yeah.
And I'll give one more little fun factoid about Jared Goff. Over the back half of the season, this team was top 12 in neutral script pace and neutral passing rate. Top 12. And you don't hear anybody talking about the Lions as a team that is going to run faster and throw more this year. But I'm telling you, it's coming.
Yes, I love it. Love it. All right. So let's get to our sleepers. We'll do those really quickly here. Derek, you're back on top. So there is your quarterback sleeper.
Man, if you'd asked me a few months, a year ago, if I'd be saying this man's name, much less telling you he's a sleeper, and I actually want to draft him in fantasy in some spots, Kenny Pickett's name was not be coming out of my mouth, dude. I'm
surprised with this one, so I'm
excited. I love it.
So I'll tell you, I was surprised with this one. Whenever we did, I did research for our quarterback podcast for Fantasy Pros, and I was like, I'm looking at all the different parts and pieces of quarterback seasons, and I'm like, I get to the back half of the season, and I'm sitting here looking through player numbers and stuff like that, and I was like, all right, weeks 12 through 18, let's see who finishes strong, who could be another breakout guy. And I pull up all these efficiency measures, and I'm like, holy shit, look at Kenny Pickett. I'm looking for him weeks 12 through 18, and amongst all quarterbacks with at least 50 dropbacks. Kenny Pickett was first in PFF passing grade. He was fourth in big-time throw rate. He was first in PFF deep receiving passing grade. He was seventh in EPA per play. All of that shit opened my eyes. Like, I'm like, all right, you know what? I can't be in take lock here, man. We get new information. You got to stay liquid. I was not big on Kenny Pickett as a prospect at all, but I want to stay ahead of consensus because what are we talking about besides Kenny Pickett taking a step forward as a player that it's going to be the hindrance? And everybody can talk about Matt Canada all you want to, but if you look at the weapons around Kenny Pickett, what's holding Kenny Pickett back from being a top 12 to 15 fantasy quarterback? He's got Deontay Johnson, he's got George Pickens, he's got Pat Freiermuth, Allen Robinson, say what you will, but he is going to be one of the best third receivers in the league. Much less if you don't even believe in Allen Robinson, let's talk about Calvin Austin, who's a talented player in his own right coming out of the slot. And do we still want to talk about the receiving weapons coming out of the backfield? Najee Harris is what Najee Harris is, but he's a dependable weapon. Jaylen Warren showed last year he's got that juice. So we're looking from a weapon standpoint around Kenny Pickett. What's the only thing holding Kenny Pickett back besides, okay, Matt Canada, if you want to go that route, but Kenny Pickett himself? So if Kenny Pickett in last season, from a deeper perspective, not just box score hunting and stat hunting on the surface level, but from a level of, was he playing better than the box scores reflected? Everything I look at and value says that from week 12 on, Kenny Pickett was playing a lot damn better than anything on the outside says that he was. So, yes, I'm buying into Kenny Pickett this year.
I like it. Definitely like it.
I love it. I love it. And don't forget to mention they beefed up that offensive line, which was
yes, they did
for them.
They sure as hell did. So you're talking about Kenny Pickett. He's going to have more clean pockets to operate from, man. I look at, and when we do these deeper dives on efficiency metrics and how players play, to me, this is where you also get an edge based off of versus everything else that like surface level, volume stats, stuff like that consider and tell you maybe this guy is going to break out or he is a bigger and better sleeper than anybody's giving him credit for. Because, and this is also me on the L. Because I gave Kenny Pickett and the Pittsburgh Steelers 10 types of shit about even drafting the guy. So I'll own the L as much as I'm sitting here talking the guy up. I wasn't in on him last year. I was like, this is one of the dumbest draft picks I've seen in the last 10 years. So to come full circle and be like, yeah, like I'm going to be drafting Kenny Pickett. Like right now, if I look at my underdog exposures, he's top 4 as far as quarterback. So I'm putting my money where my mouth is.
All right. I like it. Coach Sean, over to you. Who is your sleeper quarterback?
Dude, I can't believe I'm going to keep riding this train.
You are riding this train, man.
Oh, Lord.
The Cavalier.
It is Desmond Ritter. Desmond Ritter is my sleeper quarterback. Obviously, quarterback 30 off the board. He is completely left for dead. He could be your last pick in just about any draft. Totally fine. So why I like Desmond Ritter is for two reasons. One, I love the weapons around him. We all love Bijan. We all love Kyle Pitts. We like Drake London. Like, we're all projecting these people to be sort of top tier in their respective right. Desmond Ritter is going to be the one who gets them the ball. So I think his passing numbers, though it won't be godly, it will be good enough to keep him sort of in that, low-end quarterback 2 number. But the other thing that Desmond Ritter does that I think a lot of people forget is he rushes. He averaged over 100 rushing attempts every year in college at a 4.1 yards per carry clip. Like, he can do it. I'm not going to sit here and say he's Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts but he is just as mobile as, that next tier of guys. Like, he's just as mobile. We talked about Daniel Jones, rushing and being mobile. I think Desmond Ritter could rush as well as him. So, I think there is a world. Now, Dynasty gets kind of iffy and questionable because does he keep the job? Does he do whatever? But I don't care. I'm talking 2023, this next year. I think Desmond Ritter could absolutely be totally fine as a quarterback 2 on your team. And there will be big weeks where, Kyle Pitts breaks a big touchdown, Drake London, gets one, and then Bijan takes a screen to the house, and you're like, oh, all of a sudden you have a top 10 guy in the week. And so I just think it's interesting how quick and Atlanta's defense is going to stink. So they're going to have to throw the ball. They're going to have to score points and throw the ball. So, I look at Desmond Ritter and I say to myself, when you get this low, why not? Like, why not take Desmond Ritter if you're in a 2 quarterback league and you can get Desmond Ritter as your QB3? It's like, what's the worst that could happen? It's like I'm drafting him at the complete end of my draft. And so this is, when we talk about upside and sleepers and all this, I think, the definition to me of a sleeper is someone nobody wants but will be fantasy relevant at some point in the season. I think Desmond Ritter will absolutely be fantasy relevant this season, and nobody seems to want him.
Derek, I feel like has a couple words.
So, I'll say this. You make a really good point, John, about like, how can we be so high on, especially not so much Bijan, but like, how can we be so high on London and Pitts and not think that some of this doesn't like trickle down to Ritter? So I like that. That's a very valid argument. The parts where like I'm just not in on Ritter is because I worry about his ability to hold the job, and I think them bringing in Taylor Heineke speaks that they're not even sure if he holds the job all year long, and so that gives me some pause about investing in Ritter. You're right that like the cost is freemium. Like, he's just free. And the only thing I'll say about Desmond Ritter is that like he's gonna have to run. I'll say that he needs and he has to run to be good in fantasy, because I don't believe in Desmond Ritter the passer so much. Like, for me to invest in and yes, am I massive on Drake London? Yes, I am. But to be in on Drake London and Kyle Pitts, I think is a different conversation. It's like, because like I said, you have the out of, well, if Ritter sucks, then Heineke plays. And we've seen what the Heineke show looks like. It's not great. It's not terrible. It's passable. It's okay. A team says, okay, you can play good enough. We can win some games if we can kind of cover up, and the other weapons can be good enough to not expose how bad you are. Now, I just don't know if Desmond Ritter can be a good enough passer to hold the job, or if he's going to run, because I won't push back. Like, you're absolutely right. He ran in college. My question is, do we see him run in the NFL? Because the short stint that we got out of him last year, he didn't run. He only had one game where he had more than 10 rushing yards. His stint as a starter, they only gave him 5 designed rushing attempts. And for Arthur Smith, like, and how much they used to involve, like, Tannehill as far as, like, in the run game, he wasn't a rushing quarterback per se, but his legs were utilized. To me, that's one of the things where, like, when we saw Ritter last year, I was like, I'm sitting here scratching my head. I'm like, okay, like, Arthur Smith, you got to explain to me, like, I'm a 5-year-old. Like, you got to explain this to me. Like, the guy's struggling as a passer, and he struggled as a passer. Like, he was outside the top 40 quarterbacks, in adjusted completion rate and yards per attempt. He struggled mightily as a passer last year. Why are you not using his damn legs? Like, why are you not putting him on the move? Why are you not using boots? Why are you not using design rushing attempts? Because, like John's talking about, the guy has got athleticism. He can run. Like, what the hell are we doing here? So that's my biggest problems with Ritter is that, like, I think he has to run. We haven't seen that to this point, so there is some projection there. But I worry about him even being good enough as a passer to hold this job. Now, if he does all that, yes, he can be a value in fantasy this year if both the rushing happens this year, and I think that he is more of a sum of the parts. I don't think that he's ever going to be a quarterback that can elevate a passing game, but can Drake London and Kyle Pitts and Bijan in the passing game be enough to prop him up to where the Atlanta Falcons say, okay, like, he's not going to be, if he's not worse than Marcus Mariota, like, well, shit, we won games with Marcus Mariota. If he's better than that, then, I mean, okay, maybe we have something here. But I see a lot of the pitfalls for Ritter, and I see Heineke waiting in the wings. I just don't know how long of a leash they give him for that.
Yeah, and that's fair. I totally understand. The Heineke thing does make me nervous because I do think Heineke is a comparable, starting quarterback. But I also think on the flip side of that, if you're Atlanta and you stink, maybe you want to just stink so you have a top 3 pick next year. You know what I'm saying? Like, if Ritter really isn't the answer, just suck and go get, the top quarterback next year. And so, I don't know. There's definitely a world where it's week 5 and Heineke's in there and Ritter is dead for sure. But it's quarterback 30, so I'll take my chance.
Agreed. I mean, the downside and the shitastic play of Ritter is already baked into his ADP, man. It's already it's baked in there.
He could do a little bit better than that, possibly. So, all right, Coach Jibbs, who's your QB sleeper?
Well, it's Sam Howell, but I just want to stay on the same point. Do you have this? Oh, sorry, I keep doing that. Do you have the same sentiments with Sam Howell, D-Bro? It's like
about him holding the job all year.
Holding the job, kind of like they don't have like Bijan and all that, but they have Terry McLaurin, and it's a pretty steady group of running backs.
I've got worries about Sam Howell being good enough to hold the job, only because, and this is not so much a Howell thing, is because I think Jacoby Brissett is better than we give him credit for. Like, I put a tweet out about this like months ago. If you're looking for a guy that could be this year's Geno Smith, I think that the answer to that question is Jacoby Brissett. Because all of the weapons are there around him. And if you look at like how well Brissett played last year, he played extremely well for the Cleveland Browns. So I look at this as not like that. I think Sam Howell is a bad quarterback, especially in fantasy, because I think the one thing that we want, and we've already illuminated that a lot, Jibbs, is that we want rushing from quarterbacks. I think Sam Howell is going to give us that. I think the concerns about Sam Howell for me, it's twofold. It's Jacoby Brissett being better, and this team, like him beating him out for the starting job in Washington in week 1. And the reason I say that too is we know the Commanders are going to be under a new ownership regime. Mm-hmm. Like Dan Snyder's terrible ass is going to they're going to go let him rot in a hole somewhere. He's not going to be the owner of this team anymore. So I really look at this team as Ron Rivera and this coaching staff are coaching for their jobs this year. And with that, if they don't win, shit, even if they do win, they might just totally just gut the coaching staff. Like, the ownership could come in and be like, nah, we want our guys to sit here and lead this new iteration of the ownership and the Commanders. So, like, I think that they could literally be coaching for their jobs. And with that, you're looking at a team that says, like, starts out with the Sam Howell experience and says, okay, 3 to 4 weeks into it, Washington's like, well, our defense is playing really damn good. We're 1-3. We think we have a good enough team, and they're not wrong. Like, they have a good enough team to win some games. Like, that could be a 9-win team and be vying for a wild card spot. Considering if they just get decent enough quarterback play, and we've already seen that out of Jacoby Brissett, he could do that. So my worries about Sam Howell are not so much, is Sam Howell okay enough or good enough, or can he offer us production and fantasy? Can he be good enough to hold the job? My worries about Sam Howell are that this team is going to say, we need wins to even keep our jobs for the rest of this season, much less past this season, and they go to Brissett. My other worry is that maybe Jacoby Brissett just wins the damn job in camp because he plays better. And there are still reasons for why Sam Howell dropped in the draft as much as he did. You know, we're still talking about a guy that, like, that team didn't invest very much to even draft Sam Howell. So how long is that leash? How good is Brissett versus Howell? What does this team look like after 4 weeks? And they're saying, well, shit, we're 1-3. Hell, I'm worried about even having a paycheck when we get to week 8, much less after the end of the season. But, I mean, that's my biggest things, Jibs.
Yeah, Jib said his mic is not working. I don't know.
Yeah, I was trying to filibuster as long as I possibly could. So
I was gonna say, you did a perfect job.
If everybody's listening to me, like, I was like, all right, I'm just going to keep freaking talking until Jibs gets back here for a second. I'm going to filibuster my ass off to get Jibs back here so we can just go to this, like, smooth. But I think Jibsy's having a problem with the mic.
Yes,
yeah.
I mean,
but I agree. I like Sam Howell as a sleeper for sure. I mean, there is it's funny. I guess who scares you more, Brissett or Heineke? Right? Like, that's, you know, kind of a good question to ask yourself.
And my answer is Brissett, but who do you go with, John?
I would agree with Brissett too. I would agree with Brissett. But yeah, they're both, you know, when you get down into these sleeper quarterbacks, there's all reasons for why they're not higher. So obviously, you know, there's risk with Sam Howell, but Jahan Dotson, Terry McLaurin's two pretty good guys to be throwing to. Say what you want, but Antonio Gibson was a wide receiver back in the day when he was in college, so he can pass catch as well. I like Sam Howell to kind of break out of this, you know, ADP. I think people sometimes, you know, will look at dynasty for quarterback. They'll think long-term too much, where it's like, sometimes you just got to think, like, who helps me win right now? Like, that's kind of my Desmond Ridder take. Like, Sam Howell, same thing. Like, I'm just trying to patchwork some people right now who can help me win. And then, you know, I'll try and hit on Mahomes and Josh Allen some other time. I don't know.
Well, for me, like, in one quarterback formats, like, these guys are not even in the conversation unless you pick them up off the waiver wire later. Right. But, like, in Superflex, that's where I think, like, bringing up these types of guys really brings the merit. You know what I mean? Because it's like, if Sam Howell runs, could he be a top 12, top 15 guy if everything coalesces? I mean, I think it's possible. Now, is it really, really damn unlikely? Yeah. But is it possible, considering the rushing equity we saw out of him at college? Again, making a Ridder type of take. And that we've seen that out of him. The other thing I didn't bring up in my long filibustering, and I want to throw this to you guys because I need the coach perspective here. And I don't want to sound like I'm tossing shade at him, because look, I'm not. But I think that we also need to understand that there is a big difference, and we cannot cut and paste narratives for Kansas City and put all of that on Eric Bieniemy. What the hell does his offense look like? And that's the part that none of us, I don't think, can answer. But, like, you don't see people out there on social media questioning, what does the Washington offense look like? You know, like, are they going to be run heavy? Are they going to be are they going to throw the ball enough? Like, I don't know. And we can't just sit here and take these Andy Reid, like, years in Kansas City and say, well, Eric Bieniemy was on the staff, so all of that shit you cannot cut and paste and sit here and put in Washington. Like, You can't do that. Like, oh yeah, well, Washington's gonna be top 12 in passing rate. Well, nobody expects that. But
Right.
do we see, like, could they be top 5 in rushing rate? It's possible. I don't know. Like, I don't know what the Washington Commanders offense looks like with Eric Bieniemy calling plays, because we've never seen that before at all.
It's
So,
gonna
like,
be-
I need the input from y'all. Like, what do you see this offense looking like in your mind's eye? Because that's a real big question mark for me.
See, go ahead, John.
So it's funny. Eric Bieniemy is a great one because he is the wild card in this equation for all of the Washington pieces. I am on the camp that I do think I don't. Brian Robinson, running back, is not a game changer, and then Antonio Gibson on the ground is not really a game changer. So I'm in the camp that, Eric Bieniemy is smart, so he will get the ball in his playmakers' hands, and his playmakers right now are Terry McLaurin and Jahan Dotson. So I think he will scheme things up and do things to get them the ball, which will make them obviously right now a little pass heavy. But it's not. I'm not going to sit here and say, yeah, they're going to be a top 5 offense just because Eric Bieniemy's there. I mean, it's crazy how quick. Listen. It wasn't long ago that we said the same thing about Josh McDaniels, and then he goes and gets a job somewhere else and looked terrible. So, it's just, it's just, I don't think Eric Bieniemy's a bad. I think he's a great coach. He's probably an awesome offensive mind, but it's not this like surefire thing that this is going to be a top 5 offense. He's going to be hyper creative and get everybody's going to be a fantasy superstar. It's like, no, there's a world that, Eric Bieniemy maybe he's more conservative than we think. Maybe he's, they don't have a tight end that they can throw to, where he was so used to having that. So, how does he change his scheme? How does he change, different RPO stuff that he was able to do with Mahomes that he might not be able to do with Howell?
Well, and that's what worries me, John, is like, what does Bieniemy's offense look like? And I think, like, we all kind of shade that he's going to be good, and this offense is going to be good because of him. And to me, I'm like, we've also seen a lot of guys come from, like, good offenses, good quarterbacks, things like that, and then the offense is dog shit. Like, I mean, I remember last year, like, we don't even got to look that far in the past of, like, man, Nathaniel Hackett and what he's done with Aaron Rodgers and, the Adam Gasian years. Like, I mean, Eric Bieniemy, as much as I like him and I want him to succeed, he might be bad. I don't know.
But the one thing is that he's coming in as an OC. He's not coming in as the head coach having to handle this head coaching things. That's the one thing I'd have to say is that I feel like he has.
But he's still going to be calling plays, Steve.
Yeah, he's still going to be calling plays.
I mean, we're not expecting Riverboat Ron to be doing that. Oh God,
he has a good head coach that will probably try to keep him in check to some extent. But he's got something on the shoulder to prove. I believe it's going to be more pass than run, because I feel like he needs to show that, maybe he had more say in this offense than we think he does. In this Kansas City offense from before, he probably might not have. We don't know, but I think he's going to try to prove that. But Ron Rivera is going to keep him in line and say, "Listen, I understand you want to do all this, but we got to run the ball." So
yeah,
it's going to be in check, but it's going to be his thing still.
That's why I worry. I'm worried that this offense goes and it's really run heavy and they lean on their defense and the passing volume's not great. Now, maybe that can be okay for Sam Howell to like a lot of RPOs, but Jibbs, I need to hear your voice, man. You got the mic? You ready to sit here and tell me why you believe in Sam Howell?
Oh, yeah. Free.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's it. I just was like, I'm basically a believer. I think they both, him and I've been listening to Coach Steve bang my eardrum for like last month, but I'm a believer that hopefully Sam Howell and Eric Bieniemy both have something to prove, and like obviously everyone's gonna hang their head on Sam Howell and his like 800 rushing yards in college and whatever, but like if you give him 30 yards rushing yards a game, which is maybe high, but you're maybe 25, he still could get like 400 to 450 yards rushing yards, and that's like top. That'll put you in the 6th, 7th, 8th most rushing yards most quarterback rusher. So other than that, like I have no reason to believe his passing ability whatsoever, and he has enough weapons for him to improve on that. But like I do see the concerns. I
was probably going for 5 minutes, and you guys seemed like it was a heated debate. So
we covered everything for you. So
yeah, I'm gonna definitely rewatch it. And like other than that, like I just think he's free and he has some upside for somebody who's going as QB 27 if all things go right.
So where I guess drawing the upside scenario for Sam Howell, I think is tied to his legs. I think he's gonna it. So I'll set this. You threw out rushing expectations. For me to see like that he pays off, and we're actually talking about Sam Howell as being a startable quarterback. And the way that I'll look at this is like a startable quarterback, streamer worthy, all that kind of good stuff in one QB formats. Where do you see his rushing yards? I know you laid out the case, but like, tell me this: over under 500 yards. Do you think he gets over or under? I'll throw this out. I'll build the case that I'll take the over, because I think if Sam Howell is going to be a success this year, he's going to have to run. So I'll take the over. But where do y'all sit? Starting with Jibs.
I'm over. I'm a betting man.
Okay, let's go.
That's such a good line. I'll take over just because, like you said, I think
I should open my own sports book.
I think he, like I said, if he's gonna win this job out, he has to run. So yeah, I'll bet over.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a big believer in Howell, so I'll take.
Yeah, Steve's obviously.
Well, so.
Steve,
Steve.
I just wanted to see Steve from it.
I'm the
Steve, I didn't know you were a sleepy Sam Howell stan.
He was my QB1 rank coming out of the draft.
Oh,
I had my favorite prospect.
Well, I mean, that quarterback class is not saying too.
It wasn't great, but he was my favorite quarterback out of the class.
I'm like, well, you know.
I would have picked him myself. I feel like I've been just talking so much Sam Howell. I was like, you know what? Let me talk about somebody else for once. And then Jibs picked him. I'm like, well, you just can't get away from Sam Howell.
Sometimes you just don't fight it, man. You just go with it.
Yeah, it's like nice Jibs. Nice pick. So, all right, let's finish up with my last quarterback sleeper of the night here. It's Derek Carr, guys, the new quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. So with Derek Carr, it's like 5 years too late that he needs a change of scenery. He finally got his change of scenery. You know, he's been through so much, man. The last few years with McDaniel's offense, he's had to deal with. He's got to deal with the whole. Why can't I think of the last head coach?
John Gruden.
John Gruden situation and everything. Like, if you look at the last 2 years, he's not been that great of a quarterback. He's been sloppy, inconsistent. Besides his fourth quarter comebacks, he's been sloppy with the ball over the last 2 years. And I feel like with Davante Adams, I feel like it didn't help his game. It made him focus on just one player way too much. And if we were looking at him a couple years ago, he was giving out the different players with Darren Waller 2 years ago when he was healthy, Hunter Renfrow, getting him on the map, you know, spreading the ball around a little bit more than focusing on one player. I feel like that kind of hurt his overall game a little bit and forced him to throw into situations because, it's Davante Adams, I have to give this man the ball, and caused too many like bad plays overall. And now that he's out of Las Vegas, he's in New Orleans now, a team that signed him to a decent contract. He's got weapons all around, probably the most deepest in terms of weapons on his offense. Chris Olave, if Michael Thomas is back and healthy, I mean, that's going to be huge. You know, you have Jawan Johnson, Taysom Hill, you have, Rashad Rashid back there. If you like A.T. Perry, you have him. They have a plethora of running backs there. One that's really good as a pass catcher of Alvin Kamara, as long as he obviously plays this season. But I feel like this change of scenery is going to get Derek Carr, because the last few years prior to the last 2 years, he was a flirting with QB1 for a couple of years. He was like the 13th quarterback for like 2 or 3 years in a row there. And I feel like he could get back to that. I don't think he has the upside to be a top 8 quarterback anymore. Sitting at QB 19, I think he can get back to that where he's a borderline QB1, where like you take him late in your draft and you're happy that he gives you a decent play most weeks here. I feel like the offense is going to thrive around him on this offense here. I don't think the whole Taysom Hill at quarterback situation, I feel like that's coming to an end. I feel like they really want to get him away from that situation and use him more as a tight end and like at times maybe a wildcat. But this is Derek Carr's quarterback. I mean, we saw last year Andy Dalton, he didn't have a terrible season, not great or anything, but Andy Dalton's also way past his prime at this point. And then even Jameis Winston, we saw glimpses of Jameis Winston last year play decent football as a quarterback. I think Derek Carr is an upgrade over both those guys, and I think he can get back to solid, high-end QB2 up play. I know I don't where you're sitting at right now, I think you're getting like not a steal, but just a nice play at quarterback if you decide to wait at that position. So,
Steve, would you like to know who has the easiest strength of schedule? Which team for the 2023 season?
I want to say the New Orleans Saints do.
Ding ding. You're right, sir.
Ding,
NFC
ding.
South.
Yep. I like the Carr pick, and I think like you're looking at like there are going to be a lot of stretches during this season where Derek Carr is going to be in a lot of streaming articles. There is going to be a lot of articles that say, "Hey, pick up Derek Carr and stream him." You know, like there's just multiple spots. Not only if you're looking at the overall strength of schedule, but like let's just go down. I mean, like, come on, man, like. There's at least a good like 4 or 5 game stretch, like right here, just picking out one thing for the New Orleans Saints in the middle of their season. This is the murderer's row of defenses they have to face in a few. They play the Colts, the Bears, the Vikings, and the Falcons in 1 month. Tell me how many streaming articles you're going to see written this season
every single week
where Derek Carr is. And there's going to be other ones that say play him in the fantasy playoffs because, let me see. The last 4 to 5 weeks of the season, he gets the Panthers, the Giants, the Rams, the Buccaneers, and the Falcons again. Falcons week 18. Like, there's going to be multiple, like, stretches of this year where it's like, man, we all need to be streaming Derek Carr. So I'm totally with it, man. Just like whether you look at it from a weapon standpoint, as well as the schedule lines up extremely well. There are a lot of people that are going to be placing Derek Carr in their starting lineups at various points, not just bye weeks for your quarterbacks this year. So I like the call.
Appreciate it. And you guys have an opinion? You agree?
Yeah, you just sold me on all that.
Yeah, I mean, you won't meet a bigger Chris Olave fan.
Oh, yeah. You love that I picked Olave.
Oh,
You
Olave's-
genuinely won't. So
it's going to
Olave's
work
beautiful.
out beautiful this year for him. Good
Oh,
call.
dude, I can't
excited
wait.
for that.
So yeah, I like Derek Carr. I like him at quarterback 19. I think he could easily, outperform that. He's a solid, always been a solid quarterback. The other thing I like about him too is he's an Iron Man. He's in every game. He barely gets hurt. So yeah, you can make a great case for Derek Carr being a high end, kind of middle quarterback too in a super flex. It'd be great, and get you those spike weeks when. Olave hits a big bomb and Thomas takes a slant to the house. Yeah, I like it.
I think in your best case scenario, and I think there's a really good chance that this could happen this year. I'll go as far to say like how everybody talks about Kirk Cousins as like the unsexy QB12 of every single year. Yeah. Tell me why Derek Carr couldn't be that this year.
Yeah, absolutely.
Why not? Like,
right. Good.
I mean,
reminds me of like when Phillip Rivers was still kind of kicking around, and everyone was like, "Oh, Phillip Rivers is." It's like, yeah, no, he's still really good. He's still going to be.
I'm not telling you Carr has top 5 upside, top 8, but can he be? Is there a way where Derek Carr could fall in that QB 10 to 12 discussion after this year?
Yeah, for sure.
That's definitely possible.
Yeah, for sure. Yep, for sure.
All right. Well, we're going to finish up tonight's show, guys. This was a fantastic show. A lot of conversation, a lot of arguments. I loved it. Loved the whole thing here. Jibs, anything you want to mention before we get going?
No, sir.
John, anything? Oh,
no. This was a ton of fun. Derek, thanks for coming on. It's a pleasure. You guys are, do great work over at Fantasy Pros. So I always appreciate you coming on talking football.
Yes, and obviously, man. Derek, yes, we appreciate you jumping on, man. This was obviously, you made this episode very fun for us, so we appreciate that as always. So, if there's anything you want to mention that you guys have going on, I'll give you the floor now, my friend.
Thank y'all for having me, man. This was an absolute blast. Love chopping it up, talking ball with y'all, man. I know I sound like I'd like to give people shit and stuff like that, but to me, there are a lot of fantasy shows out there do too much damn hand holding and everybody's all nice and shit. Like, people want to hear you push back against somebody's takes. People want to hear it where it's like not just being an ass to be an ass, but like where there are 2 sides to every coin, and so it's nothing but love, guys. Like, so for me, like, we're going to get a lot of things right this season. We're getting a lot of things wrong, but I really appreciate coming on here and chopping it up with y'all. So thank y'all again for having me, man. This was fantastic. good quarterback talk, dude. And yeah, I mean, all the things and stuff, man. I mean, all my works at Fantasy Pros. Our draft kit's live. Go check it out. You know, like
Watch me be
it's all
Derek
good
in the
stuff, man. I
rankings.
mean,
If you haven't heard of Fantasy Pros at this point,
Yeah,
check out the
you're under a rock.
website. They got some rankings. They do
I get
different
everything.
things.
You're doing something wrong if you haven't heard of them. So.
I can all the shameless plugs I could hit you with right now. I mean, look.
You
Go
guys
to
might want to also check out this
fantasypros.com.
TV network called ESPN. They're pretty good too.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, dude, if you go to fantasypros.com, and I'll just say this, if you go to the site, you look at our draft kit, and it is not absolutely fantastic, and there's not one metric shit ton of stuff to help you to win your leagues this year, hit me up. Hop on our Discord. Talk shit to me. Sit there and tag me out on Twitter. I'll own that L, but I'm confident in that because I know that's not going to happen. So, yeah, there's my plug.
Love it. Love it. All right, guys. So, again, appreciate you all for tuning in, listening to tonight's show, whether you're listening live on our YouTube channel at The Fantasy Coaches or if you're listening live, or not live, but afterwards on whatever, Spotify, Apple Podcasts. We do appreciate always tuning in. A couple things. Continue to look on our YouTube channel. I've been putting out our 2023 outlooks on individual players that John made me do, and now I'm doing on a week-to-week basis. They're coming out pretty good. They're also on our TikTok, too. It's still The Fantasy Coaches there, too. We have our charity leagues over on Twitter. You can find that pinned on their thing there. It's really cool. We're donating to the Humane Society. We did it last year. We're doing it again this year here. So hoping to add more people to our leagues and do a little funness with that. You know, we're trying to get a couple of leagues going. We have one so far filled. Try to get one more going. So it's a lot of fun. And of course, we'll be back next week talking, I think, running backs next week. So tune in next Monday, the 17th. Until then, guys, thanks for listening as always. Take care and have a good one.